Welcome to your 49ers live looking here at the UC Health Training Center in Inglewood, Colorado for the 49ers' second day of joint practices. I'm joined by 49ers General Manager John Lynch. John, you spent 4 seasons here with the Denver Broncos. How does it feel to be back at your old team, your old facility? You said you used to practice on this field. Is this the same field?
Same fields. The facilities changed a little. They've added to with the big field house.
A couple improvements here and there.
But it's a first-class organization. You know, I came here in 2004 after playing in Tampa for 11 years, and this community, this organization just really took me in, and we ended up living here for 11 years. So obviously loved it, and this organization, big part. Even though I only played 4 years here, it felt like a lot longer and very impactful in my career.
When you were walking out of the facility, I saw like old staff members coming to say hello to you. You actually have a banner hanging up in the training facility. Did you get a good look at that?
I did. You know, the first day I came in, someone pointed it out. I didn't even know it was up there, so that's pretty cool. You know, but much like the Niners, the Broncos are a place with Mr. Bolin's leadership where there's a lot of employees who've been here for 30 years, and that to me is a testament of you're doing things the right way, and this organization has always done that.
You got to see some old friends on the sideline. I saw you getting to chat with John Elway on the sideline. Do tell your relationship. I mean, 2 former players, now 2 current NFL GMs. How would you describe that?
Well, I think first and foremost we're good friends. You know, John and I went to the same school. He was ahead of me, but there's a lot of crossovers in our life. I played for the same high school football coach that he played for, and you know, a lot of parallels. We were 2 sport athletes at Stanford, and you know, when I came to Denver, he's one of the guys who, you know, just called me up, and I had known him a little bit, but this was John Elway, who was my idol, and he just looked out for me. He said, hey, anything you need, I'd like, you know, I want this to be a smooth transition. Let me know how I can help, and he always did that. And, you know, as for me being in this position was very instrumental. I saw a friend take on something that he loved and was passionate about, and saw him do pretty well. They won a world championship, and so, you know, he also invited me in one off season and said, hey, come, you know, I want you to one year it was breaking down the safeties, the next year all the DBs, the next year actually come in and see what an off season's all about. And so I was able to do that, and kind of started to get my interest in perhaps if the right situation ever came about, doing the same thing, and ultimately it did in San Fran. And so,
obviously became a resource for you transitioning into the general manager role.
Yeah.
So let's step to the side. Let everyone join practice. Enjoy a little bit of 49ers practice. We can come over here.
Yeah.
And we can talk and we can watch as well. So
I'm noticing first change. There's music today. What happened,
There's
man?
music today.
Vic gave in.
Not so much. It was a little bit of a silent practice. But speaking of practice, yesterday I would say was a pretty civil session between both teams. Is that kind of the tone you guys are looking for?
Well, yes. You know, these are good partners. Vic and Kyle have a great relationship. I think there's a lot of, you know, Rich Scangarolo, their offensive coordinator. But, you know, the bravado and fighting, that really doesn't do a whole lot of good, and you can break hands. It's really, football fights are some of the silliest things ever, because, you know, you hit a guy with a helmet, you're going to break your hand. And so, and you can't do it in the regular season. You're going to get ejected from the game. So why have that out here? And I think the players are doing a really nice job. And not that it's going to be, you know, two-hand touch. There's going to be some hard hitting, and we had that yesterday. But I think everybody kept their cool, and I was proud of our team. I know they were proud of their team. It was good work.
How beneficial do you think it is having these joint practices? Now we're in the 3rd week of training camp. Things are kind of winding down, but to kind of keep that motivation going.
Yeah, I think motivation. All these guys are motivated because they're in a lot of circumstances fighting for a job.
Right.
These are hard jobs to get, and the competition is real, and so the motivation's there. I think most of all it's getting to compete against another team with different looks, different schematic things, and so that's what's critical in these things. And, you know, with Vic's defense, completely different defense than we play in San Fran, and so that's great for our offense. For our defense, you know, we're going against Rich Scangarolo. It's pretty much the same offense, but some different wrinkles, and you're getting to play against different players. And so it's a great evaluation tool, but it's also part of us getting better as a team, and the same can be said for the Broncos.
I think you jinxed us because now we have no music. So
I did.
I'm gonna give you the
He gave
blame
it to
on
us
that
for
one.
stretch, though. That was, yeah,
So-
baby steps.
So I'm just going back to yesterday's practice. You have two fields. You went from having 90 guys to look at to now you have 180 guys
Yeah.
on a field.
Yeah.
So myself, I flip and I'm watching one
Yeah.
side of the field, and then once the play is over, I'm flipping to the other
Right.
side. So as a general manager, where are your
Yeah.
eyes during?
You know,
something
one
like
thing
this?
I learned kind of, you know, that it's like playing. The only way you get better at playing is playing. And watching these things, I think my first couple of years doing these things, you try to watch both fields. And when you watch both, you really watch nothing. And so you're always going to go back on the film and watch it anyway. So I try to focus on one field at a time and kind of switch off, you know, start with our defense and then we'll move over to our offense and kind of that type of rotation. I think it works a lot better.
Maybe I should take notes from you because I was just flipping back and forth. I wanted to see a little bit of everything. I don't get the beauty of getting to see the tape. But so now we're at the final days of camp. As a general manager, what exactly are you looking for right now out of your players?
Well, we're looking really, you know, these are the dog days of camp, you know, and camp isn't what it used to be in terms of two-a-days and all that. It's still hard. We ask a lot of these guys, both mentally and physically, and so that's what this league is all about, though. It's a marathon. It's tough to get through a season, so you want players who thrive kind of under duress, and so you're looking for that, and we're looking really, the answer is we're looking how are we going to put together our best 53-man roster where we can, and that's not always the 53 most talented players. It's the guys that are going to make us the best team, and so our roster is deeper than ever before. We'll have tougher decisions than ever before, but those are good things and good problems to have, and oftentimes it plays itself out. Most of the time it does. These guys, by the way they perform, are going to dictate who's a part of this team.
Now, there is a position group that I do want to point out, and that's the linebackers, specifically Fred Warner and Quon Alexander. Coming out as a rookie, Fred seemed kind of like a mellow guy, and now you see him at practice. He's out there shouting. He's getting everyone hyped.
Yeah.
Quon Alexander said yesterday that he tells Fred, like, all right, today I need you to match my energy. Like, you need to get it up.
Yeah.
So what's been your take on these two guys?
Well, I think Quon, that's something we were looking for. We knew that Quon was an exceptional football player. We also know that he's got some natural leadership qualities. He brings juice. He's one of those guys who, when he's on the field, everybody plays a little harder, a little faster, and you could see it scream through the tape in Tampa. When you can see that through silent tape, that tells you something. But you're right, with Fred, he's kind of bringing out a different side of Fred, and that's been a fun process to watch for us.
It's been really fun to watch, especially from the sidelines. But, all right, second preseason game coming up. You have 2 days. Is there any different point of emphasis going into a second preseason contest compared to a first or a third or fourth?
I think some of it's dictated by who's available, injuries and such, but sometimes players who, maybe we're working with the 3s and 4s but have impressed, all right, let's try to see them get a look with the 2s. Because, all right, they're doing it against the guys on the back of the roster. Now let's put them in a position against guys who are starters or second team, backups, and see if they can still perform at that same level. So a lot of that schematically, training camp's an interesting time because at this point you have your whole package in, so you can run whatever you want. And there'll be things that Kyle and Robert Saleh want to emphasize, that our coaching staff wants to emphasize in the game. And oftentimes that's showcasing a player. Okay, let's get the ball to him and see how he's going to respond. And so probably a little different from a regular season, where a regular season you're not evaluating anyone. You're trying to win a football game. We like to win preseason games, but what's more important is how we're performing. Are we playing up to our standard?
At your last visit with us on the Live Look, and one thing you and I talked about was takeaways and the 49ers' lack of last year, and you said that's something that has to change going into this year. So let's talk about the last two practices. 49ers secondary came up with 7 over the last 2 practices. Granted, some were against our own, but what's been your evaluation of the 49ers secondary over the last few weeks?
That's a good thing, and I think we've left opportunities out there too. There's been some drops. We've always believed that this whole thing works in concert, and it starts up front. So I think the guys up front are doing a tremendous job putting the quarterbacks under duress, and when that happens, they tend to throw it to the other team. Now we just got to get better at catching it. But there's, our guys are doing that, and a guy like Tarvarius Moore has moved back to his natural position of safety, and it's looking good. He's making plays each and every day.
So unfortunately, we're not on our own schedule out here. We're on the Broncos schedule. So I had a couple people reach out like, why are the live looking so short? We're not at home. We're not on our home field. So we kind of got to play by their rules. But final thing, what do you want out of today's second joint practice?
Yeah. Well, I think a couple of things. Number one, you want your guys to keep their poise. It's going to be more competitive. Guys went home last night, back to the office, and they watched the film with their coaches. Both sides are going to say, you know what, it wasn't good enough. And so the energy the second day is always going to come out a little more. And so we better expect their best shot. But in doing so, that doesn't mean you go fight. It means you keep your poise and you go play. And so you want to see guys who keep their poise. We want to do that as a team. And we want to go continue to get better. If you can find a way to get better each and every day, good things are going to happen with our team. I've been pleased with the attitude, the effort. Those are things we can control. And as long as we keep doing those things, we like our squad.
John, it's always a pleasure having you on the Live Look-In. Thank you so much for joining us. John Lynch here at the 49ers Live Look-In at the UC Health Center in Inglewood, Colorado.
Thanks, Keiana.
Yeah, that's going to wrap it up for us. I can take that. All right, there we go. Appreciate it so much. And that's going to pretty much do it for us here at the UC Health Center. Make sure you head to 49ers.com for all your updates on 49ers training camp and the joint practices. And we will see you next week.